It's that time again. It's time for Shelve It or Shove It, that completely superficial way to pick books for your TBR based solely on their covers. Who am I? I am your host, the booktube goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. And as usual, I'll be going on to Goodreads, looking at their February list of new releases and looking at young adult science fiction and fantasy to pick one book based solely on their covers to add to my TBR. Okay, so let's get started. First up in young adult is Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare. The Last Hours, Book 3, Collector's First Edition, a Shadowhunters novel. I have read Shadowhunters books in the past. I think the first trilogy, The City of Bones, whatever, and I thought they were fine. I will say this is a gorgeous cover. I love this artwork. I love this girl turning with a lantern. I wonder if this is a period piece because the other Shadowhunters books I've read were contemporary, but I haven't kept up with it, and I'm not picking up a book 3, so just for those reasons, I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is another well-known author, Holly Black, with The Stolen Heir. Now, this is a novel of Elfheim. Is that a Cruel Prince reference? Probably. I do like the cover. I like that it's a bird cage, but the cage is empty and the bird is sitting outside of it. I'm not a huge Holly Black fan, and I know her YAs are usually romance heavy in the type of way I don't like to see in my YA, so I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is The Love Match by Priyanka Tasleen. And no, this looks like a love triangle. I like how the artwork depicts multi-ethnic people, but I'm just not into a YA romance centering around a love triangle. I'd watch it if it was on Netflix, but for a book, I'm going to have to shove it. Next up in young adult is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. And the cover has sort of this cartoony illustration of a young girl of color who is not thin, so I like that, and her boyfriend who looks very buff, I guess. Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. Again, I'd watch it on a Netflix show, but as a book, this is not my type of novel, so I'm going to have to shove it. And finally, in young adult, Song of Silver Flame Like Night by Emily Wen Zhao. Now, I did read the first book in her Blood Heir trilogy. I didn't continue with the trilogy. It was a decent debut novel, but I just wasn't taken enough by the story to continue. This has a gorgeous cover. I really like this dragon. It looks like watercolor. It is really beautiful. So that means I'm going to have to shelve it. Now we move on to science fiction, and the first book up is Adrian Tchaikovsky's Children of Memory. Now, I am aware of this book because it is the Tchaikovsky trilogy I did not read. I read the Final Architect series, and I'm waiting for the third book of that, and I believe this is the last book of this trilogy, which I'm not going to start that yet. I want to finish the Final Architectures. I will say these covers just seem like generic science fiction to me. They don't wow me, but I do think this is an excellent author. Unfortunately for this book, I'm going to have to shove it. Next up in science fiction is Please Report Your Bug Here by Josh Rydell. I love the title. The title is hilarious. The cover is terrible. Golden Gate Bridge. I'm very well acquainted with San Francisco, so I like the Golden Gate Bridge, but this cover is doing nothing for me. The only reason I would even consider it is because the title is pretty clever, but not by the cover. So I'm going to have to shove it. Next up in science fiction is The Terraform by Annalee Newitz, best-selling author of Autonomous. Haven't read it. It does have a recommendation by N.K. Jemisin, which does carry some weight for me. But most of all, I like this cover. I like this cover a lot. I like how the title splits between sort of this futuristic cityscape and this green nature mountain landscape. I love how there's birds on one side and planes on the other. I like this cover a lot. So I'm going to have to shelve it. Next up is The Deluge by Stephen Markley. Not a fan of this cover at all. I mean, it's a blue sky and it looks like the cover's been ripped. The sun is in two different positions, so maybe, I don't know, alternate reality type thing. This cover is not for me at all, so I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is Observer by Robert Lanza and Nancy Kress. And the name Nancy Kress is familiar to me. I'm not sure why, but the cover, there's a cube. I kind of like how Observer is at that angle, following the perspective of the cube, and it looks like there is a person, a man in the outline that looks like some type of computer-generated figure, I guess. I don't know. I'm assuming this has to do with AI. It's not giving me enough, so I'm going to have to shove it. Now we move on to fantasy, and first up is probably going to have many people excited because it is a Leigh Bardugo. Hell bent, what a disgusting cover. It has this white rabbit that looks like he's not doing well. I kind of am drawn to it. I do like Leigh Bardugo. I liked the duology Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. So this looks like a standalone, and it looks really creepy. It looks like a horror. I wonder if this is a horror novel, because you can find them in either science fiction or fantasy. I am intrigued. It is so disturbing. I am intrigued. So I think I'm going to shelve it. Next up is The Keeper's 6 by Kate Elliott. And a story of portals, dragon kings, surprising literature, and one furious mom. Okay, I am going to say this is a portal fantasy. Not just by that blurb, but this cover has sort of this cloud-like dragon, but there looks like there's a portal and some people going into it. I like this cover. I actually like the cover, and I like the author. I've read Kate Elliott before. So, intriguing. I'm going to have to shelve it. Next up is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, a novel by Heather Fawcett. Okay, so at first glance, it looks like it's some type of reference book on fairies, but it says it's novel, so I don't know what's going on with that. I kind of like the cover. I mean, it looks like some type of fairy reference book. I am really intrigued, but this is the type of book I would be going to the blurb for, not just picking it up based on the cover. There's a lot of intriguing things going on, especially with the title. but just on the cover, I can't choose it just based on the cover. So I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is The Daughters of Izdihar by Hadir Elsbai. And I'm probably butchering those names. I like the cover. I like the illustration, sort of the, it looks like blue ink. And then there's sort of that red sunset going to yellow, sort of with that design on it. As much as I like the cover, it doesn't really wow me, other than this is some Mideast Indian type setting. Yeah, I'm going to have to shove it. And finally, in fantasy, Son from the Poison Rose by Jonathan Mayberry. This is a Kagan the Damned novel, so I'm assuming it's part of a series, and it's not the type of cover I like. It just is featuring the title, and there's some stuff around it or behind it in this case that's actually making the title hard to read with these two swords and the rose. Anyway, not impressed with the cover. Not going to start a series I know nothing about, so I'm going to have to shove it. Okay, we have ended up with 4 books. Song of Silver, Flame Like Night by Emily Van Zhao, young adult. In science fiction, The Terraforms. Or Terraformers. Terraformers, that's the name, by Annalee Newitt. And Hellbent by Lee Bardugo. In fantasy, and another fantasy, The Keeper 6 by Kate Elliott. Okay, I really love the cover on the Song of Silver, that watercolor dragon. Since I have read the author, it'd be like giving that author another chance. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Annalee Newitt's The Transformers has an N.K. Jemisin recommendation. And I do like this cover a lot, and it's our only science fiction. And the 2 fantasies are Hellbent by Lee Bardugo and The Keeper 6 by Kate Elliott. Hellbent, I wish I knew if this was a horror or not. It just looks like a horror, but I'm not sure. You know, I think after looking at them all, I am kind of drawn more to the science fiction. One of the reasons I'm not drawn to this young adult is because I know the author does like the YA romance tropes with her YA, and I'm just in the mood for some science fiction. So why not? Let's go for The Transformers by Annalee Newitt. Now, I haven't heard of this author before, Annalee Newitt, but they've written several books already. Let's just go ahead, dive right in, and read the blurb to The Terraformers. Was I saying Transformers? The Terraformers. The Terraformers is an equally heartwarming and thought-provoking vision of the future for fans of Becky Chambers, Kim Stanley Robinson, and Martha Wells. Destry is a top network analyst with the Environmental Rescue Team, an ancient organization devoted to preventing ecosystem collapse. On the planet Sask-E, her mission is to terraform an Earth-like world with the help of her taciturn moose, Whistle. But then she discovers a city that isn't supposed to exist, hidden inside a massive volcano. Torn between loyalty to the ERT and the truth of the planet's history, Destry makes a decision that echoes down the generations. Centuries later, Destry's protege, Misha, is building a planet-wide transit system when his worldview is turned upside down by Sulfur, a brilliant engineer from the volcano city. Together, they uncover a dark secret about the real estate company that's buying up huge swaths of the planet, a secret that could destroy the lives of everyone who isn't Homo sapiens. Working with a team of robots, naked mole rats, and a very angry cyborg cow, they quietly sow seeds of subversion. But when they're threatened with violent diaspora, Misha and Sulfur's very unusual child faces a stark choice. Deploy a planet-altering weapon or watch their people lose everything they've built on Sask-E. Well, there's a lot going on there. I was really thrown by the companion of a moose. So I guess we have sentient animals because we also have naked mole rats and a cyborg cow. So I wonder if this is going to be a humorous novel. I think it could go either way. But I am intrigued. I am very, very intrigued, especially since it seems like this is a generational novel that spans, looks like 3 generations of people. So very interested in the terraformers. What books would you have picked based solely on their covers? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.